My apologies for interrupting you earlier. I just couldn't stomach the answer that I knew you were
Couldn't
going to say.
stomach, couldn't stomach the answer?
Yeah, I couldn't stomach because your actual answer to Trump being what was happening to him with the indictments, you actually said that the system was doing it. You said there was a two-tier system. This
That's
is
right.
your words.
That's right.
It was a two-tier system. So when it came to Trump, all of a sudden you now believe in this systematic thing that's happening to Trump. But then when it happens to black people,
but it's not about race. It's not about
I didn't
race.
ask you that. I asked you, remember I made it easy for you and I took race out of it. Remember I said, I'm just talking about the system. I'm just talking about the system.
If you want to ask me whether I believe Donald Trump is being treated the same way as Joe Biden and is being treated the same way as Hillary Clinton, all these people are white. All these people are white. There's a double standard.
Well, Mr. Elder, you didn't hear my question.
You said that
you didn't hear my question.
You said some people commit crimes. So you do believe that Trump, Giuliani, they committed a crime.
I don't know.
But you just said some people commit crimes.
I said some people committed a crime. I didn't say Donald Trump committed a crime. If you ask me specifically whether I believe Donald Trump committed a crime, I don't.
What's up, you guys? This is Real Talk Corner. I am your host, Ariana, the Quantum Healer, and my co-host, Sabrina Williams, in the building. Woo! Well, we are back, and we are going to be covering some stuff tonight. We're going to just jump into it because we have a pretty, I don't know if we'll be able to watch the whole thing, but we'll watch as much as we can. Larry Elder. And you guys know we told you we were going to be covering the presidential candidates. We said we would be bringing it to the table so we could talk about it, so we could show you guys who's running. But interesting enough, another breakfast morning, what is their fucking title? Shit.
Breakfast Club.
The Breakfast Club morning show, another epic fail for them in interviewing presidential candidates. And we're going to wonder why. I haven't watched all of it. I saw some clips of it myself. So we're going to watch it all together for the first time and see how we feel about it. I ain't going to say nothing else. We just gonna watch it. I ain't gonna say nothing else about it. We just gonna watch it.
It was racists who destroyed it. No question about it. We've had race riots, but so if Japanese.
So you do agree that there's racism? I'm just so confused.
I never even came close to saying. I never came close to saying there was no racism.
You just said you don't think it's systemic racism.
Not anymore. Obviously, there was. We had something called slavery. We had something called Jim Crow.
That destroyed black. Hold on, sir. That was the system that destroyed Black Wall Street. It's the same system right now that's not even wanting to pay those same living descendants, because I know your position on reparations, but those same living descendants of Black Wall Street.
Okay.
And then you go on to say that the system, the quote unquote system, is also trying to destroy President Trump. So I'm just so confused on, do you believe that the system can destroy or not? You pick and choose, sir, and that's what's so confusing to me. You just said it wasn't racism. Now it is racism. When it was time to build it back.
I said it wasn't.
There was no racism.
I said it wasn't systemic racism. Let's talk about.
So what are you just hung up on the word system?
Can I just make this point, Charlamagne, please? Let's take Chinese Americans. Chinese Americans were the first ethnic group to be excluded with an Immigration Act in the late 1800s. They had riots against Chinese in L.A., in San Francisco. There were laws that prevented Chinese Americans from participating in the laundry business. I'm in California. California, of course, rounded up Japanese Americans during World War II. There were laws that prevented Japanese Americans from owning farmland. The average Japanese American household has a higher per capita income than the average white household. The average Chinese American household has a higher per capita income than the average white household. How does that happen? It happens because of a strong belief in family. It is rare for a Chinese American or a Japanese American kid to have a child outside of wedlock, and a strong belief in education and a strong belief in entrepreneurship. These are the kinds of qualities that make people successful.
You can't blame everything on having a fatherless family, right? Because
I didn't say blaming everything.
I know, but that's what you're saying. You're saying a strong community. But
no, you said that's what I just said. I didn't say that.
You talk about the Asian community. Asian community, is easy for them to get loans for entrepreneurships. It's easy for them to get loans for houses. You look at our community.
Okay.
If you really want to talk about our community, right? You look at the schools in our community. Some of our schools are the worst, right? Would you agree with that? Yes or no?
Absolutely. Which
right?
is why one of the reasons I'm running for president is for school choice.
Also, would you say that is in our community is
systemic?
It's also in our communities heavy food deserts. There's nothing but fast food places that are just killing and destroying that. Would you say that's true?
Systemic too.
Boy,
When you say that's true, I'm just asking a question.
You said a number of things. I just addressed one of them about loans. In 1965, Barack Obama, who was in private practice, joined a bunch of other lawyers to file a class action lawsuit against Citicorp, which is headquartered here in New York. 186 Black people were applying for loans for mortgages and didn't get them. And they accused Citicorp of engaging in racism. Citicorp said, no, it's not racism. You have poor credit scores, and we want to make sure we get our money back. Obama joined a bunch of other lawyers, and they sued Citicorp in a class action lawsuit. And Citicorp said, okay, to hell with it. Gave them all loans. And they followed them all up. Daily Caller did a few years later. Almost all of them lost their homes. Several of them filed for bankruptcy. One of them even said, when you don't qualify for a loan, maybe we shouldn't get a loan. Well, duh. It wasn't true that Black people were not getting loans. Plus, there are all sorts of Black-owned community banks around the country. And it turns out the turn-down rate when you apply for a loan at a community bank was even higher because they had less capital and they couldn't afford to loan money to risky people. It is just not the case that the reason for the plight of the Black community is because people were not lending money to them. It's just not true.
That's not true. But hold on 1 second, Charlamagne. But so
what's not true?
You're bringing back facts from 1965, right? Let's talk 2023, right?
I said 1995.
1995. We'll talk 2023, right? My son will be successful in real estate and successful in buying a house. You know why? Because of you. House. Because of you owns a house, right? But my father,
because of you and the drive, because of you and the drive you put into it,
not own houses.
Because of you and the drive you put into it.
We're not going to have a conversation.
You're not even appreciating what you've done to your son.
I'm just asking you a question. I just let you speak. I'll let you talk.
Okay.
We have a conversation. When we talk about it, right? It's harder for our community to get loans, right? And not just because of poor credit scores. It's because of where the areas are. You talked about the Asian community. A lot of the Asian community have their own banks and they're able to process and get their own banks. There's not too many African-American branches that are able to give out money. So that's one. Then let's talk about getting grants for schools. They're not even giving grants for schools at the rate that they're giving grants for white people. And let's talk about when they talk about entrepreneurship. They are giving so much money to these white and Asian kids and Asian people doing it, and a 1,000 times less than our community. Will you agree to any of that?
No, I don't. I don't agree with virtually any of what you just now said. The turn down rate for a white applicant for a mortgage is higher than the turn down rate for a Japanese or a Chinese applicant for a mortgage. Now, are you telling me that banks are discriminating against whites and in favor of Asian Americans? It's because their credit scores are better. They often live below their means. They save more, even when they're making the same amount of money than Black people do. If you have poor credit score, you're not going to get a loan. Period. End of statement. Even the head of Urban League, a Black man once said that if you have poor credit score, you're not going to get a loan. End of statement.
Sir,
yes.
Let's just when you were talking about crime, you weren't prepared to talk about disproportion. You talked about how it was more Black people that was doing it, and then you talked about how we're the smaller, of the population. The same applies also to the loans. It's more white people than it is Black people. You seem to pick and choose.
I'm talking about the rate. I'm talking about the rate.
Whatever it is, the bottom line is it's more white people than it is Black people. And so if more Black people are not getting loans disproportionately, it seems you only want to apply the disproportion to the conversation when it benefits your talking point.
I'm not sure you understood.
Which is why they say.
I'm not sure you understood. I'm not sure you understood my point. That's why I mentioned in 1995 when 186 Black people who were not getting loans filed a class action lawsuit claiming that they were denied the loan because of racism. Citicorp said, okay, here are your loans. The reason I wasn't giving you the loans is because we're afraid you weren't going to be able to pay them back.
I'm not talking about
Fast forward, they weren't able to pay them back, which proved the Citicorp point.
I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about
I know you're not. Because inconvenient.
I'm talking about your response to Envy when you said more white.
Just a little bit. So, yeah, we know that there are places that have done some probably prejudicial shit on not giving people loans. But on the other side of that, we also know taking account where you live and all of that is part of the stats. Your credit score is a part of it, because unlike what people fail to want to admit, when you come from the hood, how most likely are you going to pay some shit back? And that whole thing that we ain't getting grants and stuff, that's some bullshit, because grant money going back to school has always been there. Always been there. Not to even mention, I ain't even going to talk about, they paid, my daughter got preschool for 3, she was in daycare, and they had a preschool program for 3 years. She went to the same daycare, and that shit was paid in full. I never paid a dime for that shit. So there's like a lot of stuff that we actually do get that we can't just sit here and say that we don't get assistance. So yeah, we weren't shown those things of to go out and work hard and save money. You know, we were shown how to fuck off money. Our parents, they had addictions. My dad was a heroin addict, so he was always fucking up money. We were shown how to borrow and ask other people. We were shown a lot of bad habits, and we know in most of these neighborhoods that we were talking about, people don't have good budgeting skills. People are buying you buying Nikes and all this other shit. We talking gold chains, gold teeth, and all this other crazy shit. We was just talking about how like you have a expensive ass car in the driveway, yet you on Section 8. So where are we learning how to truly effectively take this money and come up? And I've said this before on a couple of shows. I've seen people get, this was back in like the early 2000s. I've seen people get $7 grand, $8 grand on a tax check and fuck it all off. Hair, nails, clothes, going to the club. Like, motherfuckers wasn't even taking vacations then. They was just fucking off money. They didn't take that money and invest it. They didn't take that money and put, that could have been a down payment on a fucking house. They could have saved up a couple grand and could have bought a house that year. Did they? No. So I think it's really easy to blame other people, but we have to start looking at self. What am I doing? Because even me, I had at some point, I was like, man, I'm horrible at money. The way that I fuck with money, I had to sit and say this to myself, like, why is my money running out? What am I doing with my money? And I had to sit with my bank statement. And I always challenge people to do this. Take your bank statement and sit and mark all the shit that you just buy that you know damn well you don't fucking need. Every day stopping at McDonald's or your coffees or this and third. After you sit and process, you can be like, well, I want my coffee every day. Then understand that shit adds up. That $5-7 adds up every day. When you start seeing at the end of that how much money you spend, you're going to be like, fuck, that could have went on some other shit. Mm-hmm. You know, and you have to come back and sit and say, are my practices the one, or it's the bank that don't want to give me the loan? Yet I don't pay my credit cards on time. I got fucking collections. My car, I didn't repo 3 cars.
Right.
My family ain't got no name. They ain't built shit. You're going to have to work hard to pull yourself out of that generational shit, that generational poverty.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna have to work very hard to get your ass out of that, and then instill some hard ass boundaries with money, with finances, and learn how to successfully do it. There is too many successful Black people in this country to keep sitting saying that, oh, everybody's being held down, everybody's this, everybody's that. When damn well, if you look at what you're spending, what you're doing, do you really need that? Do you really need that money right now? And I talk about that, especially when you have goals. Like if I got goals, I'm like, fuck these nails right now. I ain't got my nails done in a minute because I got other certain goals that I'm trying to do right now. I don't give a shit about these nails. But then there's times you'll see me with my nails because in that moment, that's what I'm doing. But you have to look at things and say, do I really need this right now? And if I don't, I'm gonna put it to the side because I'm trying to do something else. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's what you learn about money, and you can't be spending more than you can't spend the money before it even gets there.
Exactly.
In the hood, you're not taught that shit. You're not taught that shit. People spending money exactly when they fucking get it. Second they get it, that shit's gone. It's just like we're gonna keep going back and forth about whose fault is what. And I, just because my white skin, don't get easy access. Why? Because I fucked my name up when I was young. Right when I turned 18, credit cards up the ass was coming in. I did not do nothing financially right. I fucked that shit off constantly. And I would get new cards and I would max them out. I wouldn't pay them. Let them go to collections. 7 years goes. Oh shit, I ain't got to worry about that. My mindset was not about paying off debt. My mindset was like, oh, this is free money. Oh, well, it'll come off one day because the statute of limitations on that stuff. I did not. And I can honestly say that I did not have a good mindset when it came to money. You eventually start learning, like, I'm the problem here. It's not everybody else. You're going to look at mine now in my 40s. I've worked hard to get to where I am on my credit. I've worked hard. Like I've had my car payments for the last 5 years. This is the only car I've ever had for 5 years doing payments. But it's because I have worked hard to be like, I want to get at a status to show that that I'm good to pay. I'm somebody who is going to make payments so I can get that house loan, so I could get that bigger loan. You know what I mean? But no one's going to just give you $100,000, $200,000 for a fucking loan for a business or a home.
When you done prove that you can't even pay $20 on a credit card every month,
right?
Like, make it make sense. Because I know if I was a lender, I'll be like, yeah,
no, your credit score 300, but that means you got delinquent, you owe a bunch of people, and you not paying the stuff that you have. So if you start to learn that, and all these people teaching about credit and shit these days, come on. Like, people don't have these real reasons to be. You get into your way of life and thinking, and you just stay there as a victim, and everybody is against you. And that's not like me. I know my poor ass choices in life got my financial situation the way it was. And I've had to pull myself out of that because I took my 20s and most of my 30s and fucked off my name, so I know that I had to do it. And I had to learn how the credit system worked because I had a car before this car that I had paid off, but they didn't keep it on my credit that I paid it off. That shit came off my credit easily because the credit companies are not government run. They're companies. They are looking for all of the derogatory shit to keep on there. They don't give a fuck that you paid some shit off. That's coming off. You have to learn the system. You could say and say, oh, the system is this and the system is that, but these are businesses. This isn't government run. They're businesses. They can say and do whatever the fuck they want, but there are laws that say they got to do certain things. You can challenge that. You got to learn. This is where knowledge comes into it. You be a fucking victim forever. Come on now. Just, they be annoying me, y'all.
People get approved for loans.
Since you like numbers, Washington Post said Black Americans have the highest denial rates for purchase and refinance of loans, according to Home Mortgage Disclosures Act.
Because of their credit score.
And all credit scores are the same. 15% of Hispanic loan applicants were denied, compared with about 11% of white and 10% of Asian applicants with same credit scores. And that's Washington Post, since you love numbers so much, and I know you do love numbers. That's coming from the Washington Post. That's 2023, not 1995.
I can show you a study that says the opposite.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Mr. Elder, Donald Trump, Rudy Giuliani, and I'm pretty sure everybody who just caught a RICO with him in Georgia, they all had fathers. They still ended up in jail. How did that happen?
Nobody said if you have a father, you won't go to jail. Nobody said if you didn't have a father, you were going to jail. My father never.
But guess what you did say, Mr. Elder? I'm sorry, respectfully.
May I answer his question?
Guess what you did say.
May I answer his question?
Let him finish his statement, Ted.
Okay.
My father never knew his biological father. He got thrown out of the house when he was 13 years old. 8th grade dropout, Jim Crow South, Athens, Georgia. Fast forward, my dad cleaned toilets, 2 full-time jobs cleaning toilets when I was growing up. Went to night school to get his GED, and then after that, he went to night school to learn how to operate a small restaurant. Age of 47, my dad saves his nickels and dimes from his job, starts a small restaurant near downtown LA. Fast forward, he retires in his 80s. He owned that restaurant. He owned property next door, plus the house that's still in our family. Not too shabby for somebody who did not know his biological father. It's not a death sentence. You still have choices. It's just much more difficult to raise a child on your own. Even Tupac Shakur said, I know for a fact, Tupac, excuse me. I know for a fact, had I had a father, I would have been more confident. I would have been more disciplined. End of quote.
Well, how did all those white men end up in jail when they still had fathers? The Trumps and the Giuliani. I'm just asking the question. How did they end up in jail?
Because some people commit crimes.
No, sir. Stop. My apologies for interrupting you earlier. I just couldn't stomach the answer that I knew you were going to say.
Couldn't stomach the answer?
Yeah, I couldn't stomach, because your actual answer to Trump being what was happening to him with the indictments, you actually said that the system was doing it. You said there was a 2-tier system. This is right. Your words.
That's right.
It was a 2-tier system. So when it came to Trump, all of a sudden you now believe in this systematic thing that's happening to Trump. But then when it happens to black people,
it's not about race. It's not about race.
I didn't ask you that. I asked you. Remember, I made it easy for you, and I took race out of it. Remember, I said I'm just talking about the system. I'm just talking about the system.
If you want to ask me whether I believe Donald Trump is being treated the same way as Joe Biden and is being treated the same way as Hillary Clinton, all of these people are white. All these people are white. There's a double standard.
Well,
Mr. Elder, you didn't hear my question.
You said that
you didn't hear my question.
You said some people commit crimes. So you do believe that Trump, Giuliani, they committed a crime?
I don't know.
But you just said some people commit crimes.
I said some people committed a crime. I didn't say Donald Trump committed a crime. If you ask me specifically whether I believe Donald Trump committed a crime, I don't.
Specifically about those people and why they ended up in jail. They all got fathers.
Well, Donald Trump is not in jail.
Oh, he got indicted.
Yeah, he got indicted.
91
That's a far cry from being in jail.
Why did he get indicted?
Well, he got
then,
arrested,
sir?
is what I'm
Well,
saying.
he got
He's going to get arrested.
He got
He's been arrested.
He got indicted, in my opinion, because the DOJ has a double standard. They let Hillary pass, for example. She clearly violated the Espionage Act by having an unsecured server in her basement. She paid for the Steele dossier. She destroyed 30,000 emails that were under subpoena, and she got a wrist slap. And Donald Trump is now being indicted, I think, for the fourth time. It's unfair.
Right.
Black people been telling y'all how corrupt the FBI is for a long time.
And the FBI has been corrupt. There was COINTEL, the FBI, J. Edgar Hoover also wiretapped MLK under Robert Kennedy, a Democrat Attorney General, Malcolm X, lots of things. Right. And I find it interesting how the same people who criticize the FBI historically are now defending the FBI because they're going after Donald Trump.
Oh, we're not defending the FBI.
I didn't say you were. I said some of the same people.
We're just looking and saying, damn, finally.
What's your thoughts with Florida? And you see that they're trying to take our history out of these history books and not trying to teach our history. What's your thoughts?
I find it interesting that the Democrats are the ones complaining about Florida. This is the party of slavery, party of Jim Crow, the party of the KKK, the party of the Southern Manifesto, the party of Dred Scott, the party that I said earlier destroyed the nuclear intact family, and the party that is opposing school choice. And now they want to lecture Florida on making sure the proper history of slavery is taught. I don't know anybody who's defending slavery. Anybody. Not Ron DeSantis. He's not defending.
People benefited from slavery.
Actually, you're talking about one line. You're talking about one line in about 127 pages of the study, and it is a line that was repeated almost verbatim in the associated in the advanced placement African American course that the DeSantis administration refused to use because of all the sexual stuff that was in it. It's basically the same thing that was in the advanced placement African American courses, and now because it's in that, all of a sudden the governor is accused of somehow defending slavery. He's not doing anything of the sort.
What did you think about that?
Well, sir, you were actually one that defended slavery. In your comments, you said that, like it or not, slavery was legal in response to reparations. So it's you that was defending slavery, correct?
Defending it and saying that it's illegal are two very.
This is one of the things that we go into. Slavery was legal. As hard as it is for people to hear that, it's a horrible shit that happened. But it's crazy because when we're talking about this, slavery, there's been slavery throughout history, way before the Americas. This is something that's happened across the board for a lot of different nationalities. When you have big people doing big things and taking people from other places, it's crazy because I'm doing this global class, this global issues class, right? And it talks about a lot of things in history, how different cultures and different places went into all of these other countries in that thing to capitalize, to take resources and things like that. No, I don't feel like anybody is saying that slavery was good, besides unless you're a Klan member, unless you're, somebody who's racist, you know what I mean? I don't think anybody is over here like pro-slavery, I feel everyone knows it was horrific. Everybody knows it's horrible. Everybody knows that shit was tough, but it was legal in this place. It was legal. It was a thing. It is part of history, as horrible as it was. It happened. I mean, what are we going to do? Rewrite that and say that it was illegal when it was legal? Yeah, they were still, yes. Were they held against their will? Yes, because they were taken from their homeland. But all the white people didn't just go over there and snatch all these damn Africans up. A lot of their own people sold them. And that's another conversation people aren't willing to have. They sold them for guns. They sold them for technology. They sold them for power. You had some of the leaders that were so into these foreigners that they fucking put their guard down and let these foreigners come in and just take control and massacre their fucking people. But nobody's willing to blame them for allowing that shit to happen, right? We're just going to say these people came in here, stronghold, and just took everything. It's crazy because we were also learning, just having to, there was a small part about the United States on the Native Americans and where their territories were. And then to now, when you look at the map side by side and you look at now, and it's like, we still we don't even blink at the Native Americans and where they are in their reservations and the shit that they're going through and their resources and the people that are being killed and their water tampered with. But we're still over here crying about this, and we're not even looking at true natives to this damn land that were fucking massacred also. You know what I mean? They don't really have a lot of space because unfortunately they didn't understand the terminology when they signed the so-called treaty. You know what I mean? That took their fucking land from them and their people. And it's just like everybody has a story. It's not pretty. It's not beautiful, but that's how the world was. We don't got to keep it like that. We don't got to stay in that energy, you know? And it's like, why are we comparing? Was ours worse than theirs? Was this worse than that? You know what I mean? It's just like, when are we going to say, okay, as gruesome as this was, it was reality. Because was it right? What happened to anybody? No, but it was fucking legal. It was legal. They made it legal. Unfortunately, at that time, it was very legal. Up until people started to revolt, up until there was a whole fucking civil war about it. When people started like, you know what? No, this is not right. This is not right. This is wrong. And then things started to change. So I think it's crazy that we're trying to rewrite this and just be like, it's all bad. But no, part of our history was it was very normal. It was very normal what they did, as harsh as it was, and it was also legal. No one's saying it's morally right. Because is it morally right to sell another fucking human being? No. Just like now with child trafficking and shit. These teenagers and shit that are fucking missing. Is it right? But it's happening in large numbers. You got hundreds of kids missing in the fucking CPS and the Child Protective Services. You got kids being massacred, not just sexual slaves. Which that one girl, I hope we have time to go over that, because that one girl you had sent me, I wanted to speak on that, but that's a whole nother podcast. So it's like, we got to stop staying in these bubbles. You guys, there's so much more going on out here that if we look inward and we say, what can I do to fix this, and not just blame. It's everybody else's fault. And I can't do this. And it's just like, no, it's fucking 2023. And we keep arguing over the same shit, pointing the same fingers and not moving. Well, I can't say everybody, because there's a lot of people that are moving. A lot of people are doing things. A lot of people are owning businesses and owning homes and getting their lives together. But then you got what you see, of course, social media and the news platforms, they want to tell you something different. They want to show you something different. When they want to keep the division with everybody, they want everybody to keep fighting, keep arguing, and they play people like this. It's crazy, because I used to have so much respect for the Breakfast Club and, them. But when you hear them, it's like, you're a part of the problem. You're keeping this shit going. You're keeping the anger. You're keeping the frustration, and you're unwilling to see. You guys, all of your hosts all agree about the same shit, and you're just going to keep pointing fingers, and it's everybody else's fault. You're going to be mad at the Asians because they are very tight-knit. If you look at any Asian house, it's true. They do not marry, more of the time, they do not marry outside their race. They do not have children young. Their asses are pushed to be doctors and fucking lawyers and fucking high-end jobs. They go to school. Their grades, their respect for their parents, their elders is top.
Yeah.
That shit don't fly in their homes and in their cultures, in their families. They're very family oriented. And again, goes back to what he started with, is the families have been broken down. Just like he said, he has the same story like Vivek Ramaswamy that we were watching. His father worked 2 jobs and put himself through night school. Because that's how you change generational poverty. It's not going to happen by sitting here and trying to get this quick money on TikTok and all this other bullshit slanging on the corner. It's that
or
hard
using
work.
the excuse of you didn't have a father, or your father did do drugs, or your father, whatever your father had going on, using that same excuse. And that's the thing. I think it's all about choices. It's how you decide to, choose how, your father not being in the home or whatever the situation is, what you decide to make out of it.
Right.
Like prime example, what he said with his dad. His dad was put out at a young age. His dad chose not to let that affect him as a grown man and did what he had to do.
Right. And I agree. Just like I said, me and my brother were raised in the welfare system. We were not taught that to go work and go to any of that. We were raised in the welfare system. Totally different mindset from people who go to school, go work, you know what I mean? Go get an education. And we chose to do something different for our family. We chose to break that chain. Like, nope, we're going to do something different. My brother's been a chief engineer for years now. I think he's approaching 20 years, in Marriott. He pushed, and he was in gangs and a lot of shit, but he chose to change and push. And he was like, I have to do better for my family. He moved out of the state and city that we were in because he knew he needed to get far away from that shit and do something different. And that sometimes is we get stuck in the city, we get stuck in the block, we get stuck around the same shit, and we keep getting pulled into the same shit. And at some point, you got to say, what is more important? I need to make a decision of change for my family. I need to do something differently. And my brother was the same way. He worked 2 jobs. You know what I mean? Worked 2 jobs and then bought his first house, within like a few years. And he did that in Charlotte. He used to live in Charlotte. And he did that in Charlotte, So I'm very proud of him because it's like one of those things of, and he was not taught by my dad to be an upstanding man. My dad was, we jumped in the trash can with my dad. We dumpster dive with my dad. We had to go to the back of the stores to get food, the expired food. We took that shit home. So we were in churches when the money ran out. We went to the churches to get food. We went to soup kitchens. I remember if I saw my dad picking me up for school, I already knew we're going to the soup kitchen today because we ain't got no food at home. You know what I mean? So when I hear people like talking that shit, and I'm like, how bad was your life to where you didn't say, I need to change something? I want to grow for my kids, and I don't want my kids to go through this. I want them to have better. So I'm going to bust my ass to make sure that happens. And then we're going to instill something like, yeah, education is, yeah, you should do this. Yeah, your credit means a lot. Yeah, this, that, and the third. My daughter has better credit than I fucking do. I say it all the time. This girl got credit cards up the ass. She got better credit than me. And that girl did not play about paying them fucking credit cards. But you have to change the game. You can't sit there and keep pointing fingers and saying it's your fault, your fault. We can't change history. History is what it is. Is it hard for a child to grow up and be like, damn, my maybe 3 ancestors on were slaves? That's probably a little harsh to hear, but it's the truth. Everyone who has a background is going to be like, your people were enslaved. They had some type of shit that happened. People were murdered, killed, raped in every culture. There's not one culture that ain't went through some type of fucking crazy shit. But that doesn't define you as a people to be like, okay, we're just going to keep on this bullshit ass and be oppressed. You don't got to stay that way. My great grandmother, so my grandmother's mother was 13 when she was given to a man that was 30-something. That's not that many generations before me.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Back in Cuba, that's not that many fucking generations. It's like you can change the dynamic if you want to. If you want to, though, got to get out the fucking mindset. It's no one saying that slavery didn't happen. It happened. It's rough. Racism is still alive. No one's saying that shit don't exist. But it doesn't have to be your whole life. I hope you guys gained something out of this shit. Definitely drop us a comment. Let's chit chat in the comments and talk about this. Again, there's no wrong answer to any of this. If you don't agree, you don't agree. But as long as you keep it respectful in the comments, then we all right. So until next time, y'all. Bye.